Imagine a land that has been conquered again and again. Greeks, Romans, Arabs, Mongols, and more. Each time, the mighty empires came with overwhelming force. They burned cities, overthrew kings, and imposed their rule. Yet something strange always happened. The conquerors did not erase this civilization. Instead, they were absorbed by it. They adopted its language, its customs, its way of governing. They became more Persian than the Persians themselves. This is the story of Iran, a nation that has survived not by defeating its enemies, but by transforming them. How did this happen? What makes Iranian civilization so resilient? And how did a land conquered so many times shape the entire world? In the next hour, you will discover the complete story, from the dawn of civilization to the modern Islamic Republic. A journey through 7,000 years of history. Subscribe now, because this story will change how you see the Middle East. Before we understand modern Iran, we must go back, far back, to a time when most of the world was still wandering in small tribes. The Iranian plateau sits at a crossroads between Europe, Asia, and Africa, surrounded by mountains, deserts, and two great seas. This geography made it a natural meeting point for human migration. Archaeological evidence shows something remarkable. As early as 7,000 years ago, organized settlements existed in Iran. These were not simple villages. They had agriculture, pottery, metalworking. They had social hierarchies and trade networks. Iran was one of the world's earliest cradles of civilization, alongside Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Indus Valley, and China. But while those civilizations are famous, Iran's early history is less known. Yet it was equally important. Around 2700 BCE, a powerful state emerged in southwestern Iran, Elam. The Elamites were not a primitive people. They had their own writing system, distinct from Mesopotamian cuneiform. They had cities, temples, and a sophisticated administration. Elam was powerful enough to challenge Mesopotamia. They fought wars with Sumer and Akkad. Sometimes they won, sometimes they lost. In the 23rd century BCE, Elam and Akkad signed a treaty. This is considered one of the earliest recorded diplomatic agreements in history. It shows that even 4,000 years ago, Iran was part of the international system, a player in the great game of ancient empires. Around 2000 BCE, a major change began. Nomadic tribes from Central Asia started migrating south. They were Indo-European peoples, related to the ancestors of Greeks, Romans, and Indians. These tribes called themselves Aryans. The word means noble or honorable. They brought with them horses, chariots, and a new language. Over centuries, they settled across the Iranian plateau. They mixed with the existing populations. Gradually, the land became known as Iran, the land of the Aryans. Among these Aryan tribes, two groups became dominant: the Medes in the northwest and the Persians in the southwest. For centuries, they were separate peoples, sometimes allies, sometimes rivals. But eventually, they would unite to create one of the greatest empires in history. Sometime between 1500 and 1000 BCE, a prophet appeared. His name was Zoroaster, in Persian, Zarathustra. He preached a radical new religion, Zoroastrianism. Before Zoroaster, most ancient religions were polytheistic. Many gods, nature spirits, tribal deities. Zoroaster taught something different. There is one supreme God, Ahura Mazda, the wise Lord. But this was not just monotheism. Zoroastrianism introduced a cosmic battle, good versus evil, light versus darkness, truth versus lies. It taught that the world is not random. History has a direction. Time moves in a line from creation to a final judgment. This was revolutionary. Before Zoroastrianism, most ancient peoples believed time was cyclical. Seasons repeat, generations repeat. Nothing fundamentally changes. But Zoroastrianism said no. Time has a beginning and an end. There will be a final battle between good and evil, and good will win. This idea influenced later religions. Judaism adopted the concept of a Messiah and final judgment. Christianity built on this with the Second Coming. Islam included the Day of Judgment. All these ideas have roots in Zoroastrian thought. Zoroastrianism became the dominant religion of ancient Iran. It shaped Persian culture, law, and ethics. The principle of telling the truth became sacred. The Persians famously taught their sons three things: to ride a horse, to shoot a bow, and to speak the truth. This ethical foundation would define Persian governance for centuries. In 550 BCE, a young Persian prince named Cyrus rose to power. He was the king of a small region called Persis, but Cyrus had ambitions far greater than his kingdom. He rebelled against his Median overlords, and in a stunning turn of events, he defeated them. He united the Medes and Persians under one rule. This was the birth of the Achaemenid Persian Empire. Cyrus did not stop there. He conquered Lydia in modern Turkey. He conquered Babylon, the most powerful city in the world. When he entered Babylon in 539 BCE, he did something unusual. He did not destroy the city or enslave its people. Instead, he freed the enslaved Jews and allowed them to return to Jerusalem. He issued a declaration that has been called the first charter of human rights, the Cyrus Cylinder. It stated that people should be free to worship as they choose, that conquerors should respect local customs and religions. This was unprecedented in the ancient world. Cyrus died in battle in 530 BCE. After a brief period of chaos, another great king emerged, Darius I. Darius expanded the empire to its greatest extent, from Egypt in the west to the Indus River in the east, from Central Asia in the north to the Persian Gulf in the south. At its height, the Persian Empire ruled over 44% of the world's population, the largest empire in history up to that point. But Darius was not just a conqueror. He was an administrator. He divided the empire into provinces called satrapies, each governed by a satrap, a provincial governor. He built an advanced road system, the Royal Road, stretching over 2,500 kilometers from Sardis to Susa. With relay stations for messengers, information could travel across the empire in days, not months. He standardized weights and measures. He introduced a uniform currency, the darik. He created a postal system. The Persian Empire was the first truly bureaucratic state. It became the model for all later empires. The Romans, the Arabs, the Ottomans, all borrowed from Persian administration. In 334 BCE, a young Macedonian king crossed into Asia. Alexander III, later called Alexander the Great. He was only 22 years old, but he had the best army in the world and an insatiable ambition. In a series of brilliant battles, he defeated the Persian king Darius III. The Battle of Granicus, the Battle of Issus, the Battle of Gaugamela. In 330 BCE, Alexander entered Persepolis, the magnificent capital of the Persian Empire. And then, in a drunken rage, he burned it to the ground. The Achaemenid Empire was destroyed. Persia, which had ruled the world for 2 centuries, fell to a foreign conqueror. It seemed like the end of Persian civilization. But it was not. Alexander died young at 32. His empire was divided among his generals. The largest part, including Iran, went to Seleucus. This became the Seleucid Empire. The Seleucids were Greek. They brought Greek culture, Greek language, Greek philosophy. But something strange happened. The Greeks began to adopt Persian customs. They married Persian noblewomen. They adopted Persian court ceremonies. They governed using Persian administrative systems. Greek became the language of the elite, but Persian remained the language of the people, and eventually a new Iranian dynasty arose, the Parthians. They drove out the Greeks and reclaimed Iran. Persian civilization had survived its first great conquest. Fast forward to the 7th century CE. By this time, Iran was ruled by the Sasanian Empire, a revival of Persian glory. Rich, powerful, culturally sophisticated. But in the Arabian Peninsula, something new had emerged. Islam. The Prophet Muhammad united the Arab tribes, and his successors launched a wave of conquests. In 642 CE, Arab Muslim armies defeated the Sasanian forces at the Battle of Nahavand. Iran fell under Islamic rule. The Arabs brought a new religion, a new language for scripture. Many Persians converted to Islam. Arabic became the language of religion and law. It seemed like the end of Persian identity. But once again, Persia transformed its conquerors. Within a century, Persian bureaucrats were running the Islamic Caliphate. Persian scholars were translating Greek philosophy into Arabic. Persian poets were creating a new Persian literature. The Persian language evolved, borrowing Arabic words, but surviving. Persian culture shaped Islamic civilization. The greatest Islamic thinkers, Al-Ghazali, Ibn Sina, Al-Razi, were Persian. The greatest Islamic poets, Rumi, Hafez, Ferdowsi, were Persian. Islam conquered Iran politically, but Iran conquered Islam culturally. In 1219, the most devastating invasion in Iranian history began. Genghis Khan and the Mongol hordes, they swept across Central Asia like a storm. Cities were obliterated. Millions were killed. Iran's population was decimated. Its great cities, libraries, and irrigation systems were destroyed. It was the darkest period in Iranian history. But even the Mongols could not erase Persian civilization. The Mongol rulers needed to govern the lands they conquered. They did not have an administrative tradition, so they employed Persian bureaucrats, learned Persian language, adopted Persian customs. Within 2 generations, the Mongol rulers had become Persian in culture. They converted to Islam. They patronized Persian poets and artists. Once again, the conquerors had been absorbed. In 1501, a new dynasty emerged, the Safavids. Their leader, Shah Ismail, did something revolutionary. He declared Shia Islam the official religion of Iran. This was a defining moment. Most of the Muslim world was Sunni, but Iran became Shia. This created a distinct Iranian Islamic identity, separate from the Ottoman Empire to the west, separate from the Mughal Empire to the east. The Safavid period saw a golden age of Persian art, architecture, and poetry. The beautiful mosques of Isfahan were built. Miniature painting reached its peak. This was the Iran we recognize today. Shia, Persian-speaking, culturally distinct. For centuries, Europeans called the country Persia, after the ancient province of Persis. But the people always called it Iran, the land of the Aryans. In 1935, Reza Shah Pahlavi made it official. He requested that the international community use the name Iran. This was a statement of national pride, emphasizing the continuity of Iranian civilization, not just the Persian ethnic group, but all Iranian peoples. It was a modern nation asserting its ancient identity. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, Iran was weak, ruled by the Qajar dynasty. Iran became a battleground for foreign powers. Britain and Russia competed for influence. The British wanted to protect their route to India. The Russians wanted warm water ports. Iran lost territory, lost control over its economy. Foreign companies controlled its oil, its telegraph, its customs. The Iranian people grew resentful. In 1906, something remarkable happened. Iran had its first constitutional revolution in the Middle East. The people demanded limits on the king's power. They wanted a parliament, a constitution, rule of law. The Shah was forced to agree. Iran got its first constitution. But the revolution was incomplete. Foreign powers still interfered. The Shahs still held enormous power. In 1925, a military officer named Reza Khan seized power. He crowned himself Reza Shah Pahlavi. Reza Shah was a modernizer. He built railways, roads, hospitals, schools. He created a modern army. He secularized the legal system. He even banned the traditional chador, forcing women to unveil in public. His goal was to make Iran a strong, modern nation, like Turkey under Ataturk. But his methods were authoritarian. He crushed dissent. He centralized power. In 1941, during World War II, Britain and the Soviet Union invaded Iran. They feared Reza Shah was sympathetic to Nazi Germany. They needed Iran's oil and its land routes to supply the Soviet Union. Reza Shah was forced to abdicate. His young son, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, became the new Shah. Iran was occupied by foreign powers once again. After the war, Iranian nationalism grew stronger. In 1951, the parliament elected Mohammad Mossadegh as prime minister. Mossadegh was a popular nationalist leader. He did something bold. He nationalized the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. Iran's oil would belong to Iran, not Britain. The British were furious. They imposed an embargo, crippling Iran's economy. Then, in 1953, the CIA and British intelligence organized a coup, Operation Ajax. They overthrew Mossadegh, restored full power to the Shah. This coup would have lasting consequences. Iranians never forgot that their democracy was destroyed by foreign powers. Mohammad Reza Shah ruled with increasing authoritarianism. He modernized Iran rapidly, built infrastructure, universities, hospitals, granted women the right to vote, launched land reforms. But he also ruled with an iron fist. His secret police, Savak, tortured and imprisoned dissidents. He suppressed freedom of speech. He promoted a personality cult. He allied closely with the United States. Iran became a key Western ally in the Middle East. But many Iranians felt alienated. They saw the Shah as a Western puppet. They resented his secularism. They opposed the growing inequality. By the late 1970s, opposition to the Shah had reached a boiling point. Religious leaders, intellectuals, leftists, and ordinary people all wanted change. The most prominent opposition leader was Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, a Shia cleric living in exile. Khomeini called for an Islamic government, a government based on Islamic law led by religious scholars. In 1978, massive protests erupted across Iran. Millions took to the streets. In January 1979, the Shah fled Iran. He would never return. In February 1979, Khomeini returned from exile. He was greeted by millions. Iran became an Islamic Republic, a theocracy, the first of its kind in the modern world. Since 1979, Iran has been defined by its Islamic revolution. It is governed by religious leaders. The supreme leader, currently Ali Khamenei, holds ultimate authority. Iran has been isolated from the West. Sanctions, hostility, and suspicion define its relationship with America. But Iran remains a regional power. It has influence in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen. It has continued its nuclear program. And despite everything, Iranian civilization endures. Conclusion: the eternal pattern. 58 minutes to 60 minutes. For 7,000 years, Iran has survived. It was conquered by Greeks, Arabs, Mongols, and more. Each time, the world thought Persian civilization was finished. But each time, it survived. Not by military might, but by cultural resilience. The Greeks were absorbed. The Arabs were absorbed. The Mongols were absorbed. They all became part of the Iranian story. Today, Iran is an Islamic republic, but it still speaks Persian. It still celebrates Nowruz, the ancient Persian New Year. It still remembers Cyrus, Darius, and the great empires. Iran is not just a country, it is a civilization. And civilizations do not die easily. This is the story of Iran.